Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for some tag time. I've got some backgrounds on the mat that we created a while back, so it's going to be a quick little bit of summertime assembling today. I think I've got the stems that we created with distress watercolor pencils, butterflies same way, and also some of the marker pen ones. I'll link both of those videos down below if you're interested. Also, if you missed yesterday's announcement about Wanderlust 2026, please check out that video. Chance to get your name on the waiting list for the early bird spots for next year's Wanderlust, on which I'm a teacher. Very, very excited about that. But yeah, there is an announcement for that, which I will also link down below. I'm not quite sure which one of these I want to play with. So while I'm having a think about that, a few of you have asked about the cutting out process for these butterflies. It's really very simple. The main question seemed to be, how do you line them up? I don't really have a magic answer for you. I place the die over the outline and I run it through the big shot. So I will quickly do one of those so that you can see it happen, and then we'll come back to these tags. So once upon a time, I'm sure I heard Tim Holtz talk about a magnetic base plate. I don't have one of those. I usually use just the two plastic ones. As you can see, this is well worn. It might be time to crack open the new pack that I have lined up waiting to go. This is the metal base plate, which really is best for very intricate dies. You can see I definitely used it for the Tim Holtz, the Seth Apter dies recently, because having something of that much detail, it really helps to have the metal base plate. You don't really need it for these butterflies because it's quite a simple outline, but it's just what happens to be on the machine as I go. So here, first task is to identify which of the butterflies it is you're cutting out. Once you've done that, you need the metal outline of the die placed face down over the butterfly in order to get it. So that's as simple as it is. I line it up where I can see the butterfly in the middle. Then, holding firmly, try to get it down. This is where I can absolutely see that a magnetic cutting pad would be a really useful thing. The other, if you're worried about things sliding away, your other option is to, and I did this with a few of them, particularly the stems, which are quite narrow, so if it moves a little bit out of position, that's quite frustrating, is to put just a little bit of design tape, masking tape, even sellotape to hold it in position once you've got it. Then through the machine, simple as, out the other side, and I should have a freely released, fully cut butterfly. And yes, of course, there's that bit of tape, but sometimes they stick, sometimes they don't, but there he is. Not all of these lined up perfectly. Look at that. There's a big outline this side, almost no outline this side, because I didn't tape all of them. I was just running them through. But for me, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not a machine, and I don't like my work to look as if it's produced by a machine. I'm a human being, and mistakes and imperfections are, as much as anything else, what creates the individuality of your art. So if you're looking for sheer perfection on how to cut things out, this is not the place to come for that, I'm afraid. But yeah, I hope that shows you that it's really not difficult. I did do many of these without even using the tape, just to get those cutouts. Right, tag time. I can't quite remember where all of these tags came. This was a very, very early one. So this was a background done right at the very beginning. That's Spritz and Flick. So I should probably link that one. These, I think, are part of the Simple Summer Stencil series at some point. And it's either that or that's calling. I think that's probably too busy for the stems to really show off against, and also it would distract from how lovely that is. So I think it's probably this one, and I think I'm inclined to have a play with some stems, given we've already done a butterfly tag. I think it might be time for a stem tag. Maybe something kind of nice and simple, like so. I think I probably do want a little bit of stamping in the background. Maybe something like, yes, okay, these little, some of my first Umbel stamps. I think that'll be quite a nice background to coordinate with the lovely Tim Holtz stem. Let's stamp them in green, I think, or turquoise. Given these are green, maybe turquoise is the better bet. It'll sort of sink into the background, but that's sort of what I'm after. I don't want, this isn't my focal point. This is just a bit of background stamping to just create a sense of depth and detail in the meadow. Yeah, it's a meadow. Why shouldn't it be a meadow? So let's just have a few of those. Where it's not tall enough, I usually take the simple option, turn it over, approximately line it up, and hope for the best in stamping myself some longer stems. There we go, just like that. And then let's have one coming up from slightly lower down over this side. This is the one that's going to show up most because it's over a nice pale area. So it just tells the eye there's something going on back there. I think maybe I do want a flower kind of peeking in from lower down as well, over here. Grand. That's simple little addition to get the background going. I definitely want to use that stem. I just love that Umbel. I might also give that a bit of extra background by cutting out and adding that, because otherwise it's not going to reach the bottom, and then, you know, chances are I can use that one partially somewhere else, maybe even here. As I lie it there, my brain says, oh, that could be quite nice. So I've got a little extra bit of stem to add here. Maybe I do want this one coming in, just adding a little extra. No, let's work with this for now. So I've got some of the very watery stems, and there are some that are more full-on detail printings. They were all part of that session the other day, so you can see how you get that shift between detail and not detail if you head over to that video linked in the description. How many do I want? That's the question. Is that starting to get overloaded, or is that quite cute? Good question. So on this flowery stem, I'm now starting to think I want a little bit more colour detail, which I can add by getting out the watercolour pencils again, or I can simply go for the thing that is right to hand. I believe it was Lumberjack Plaid we were using in pencil terms. So I can do the same with an ink pad. Just pop a little bit of colour on the mat here. Get it nice and watery so that I can just add little bits of colour detail like so. So when you get to the individual project, you might find that you want a bit more going on, and that you can add very directly. And where I want a bit more intense colour, take it from less watery places and just let that slightly shape those petals in there. Good, that's giving me just a little bit of extra presence for that flower. And I like that it's not quite as detailed as this one, but again, that watercolour pencil remains reactive, so that if I do want to soften over here as well to get the look to be more similar, again, you can get out water pens and pencils and do that any old time. Pencils, ink pads, mix and match your distressed products. They'll work beautifully together. That's how they're designed. Do need a little bit of kitchen towel just to take all that red stuff away. Red is a very staining colour. I have noticed over the years, it tends to be the one that leaves echoes of itself behind, however carefully you wipe things up. So I try to do it quite quickly. I think that's quite nice. So the softer look of that one over the more detailed pencil marks on the first one, give us a sense of background and foreground, so that's quite useful. In fact, with that over there, I don't really need that extra bit of, I think that's rather nice. I had been considering having a paper doll involved, but I'm starting to feel like I don't need that. She's delightful and clearly enjoying the meadow, but she's covering up altogether too many of those flowers. You can see those subtle ones in the background just drifting out of vision. I'm rather enjoying that as it is. I think there might be some twine to come. I think it might be quite nice with a little bit more pencil detail on that stem there. So I'm just going to grab that pencil. I think it's almost certainly peeled paint that I want, and I just want to create a little bit more texture here because all the other stems have got texture, and that was a very watery stamping. So I just want some of those pen marks involved. While I'm at it, I could put a little bit extra down here as well. There, again, that's just beefing up the detail on the stamp. Sorry I wasn't zoomed in for that, but you can always expand on your device to see that. That's all really rather lovely. I'm wondering about not covering up. No, I do. I've always loved this. It's always been one of my favourite stamps. So that's another thing one could do, is get that stamp set out and just add a couple of stems of that in the background. That might make me happy. There it is, never far away. And that one I think I will stamp in green. I think we'll give that leaf green, maybe, if it's around. Or maybe olive. No, look, there's the leaf green. Thought it couldn't be far. So this is going to give us an echo of the same image that we've got tinted and cut out at the front, just coming through in the back here as an echo. I mean, I even like that exactly as it is. So now there's a real profusion of meadow flowers going on, just creating all that detail in the background. And back we come with our stems. I like that sticking over that edge there. Wonder if we can create a similar kind of, yeah, if we get you going over that edge there, you a little pink. Oh, look, there's a bit that hasn't pressed out there. There we are. Then we see even more background. This one, you'll notice, has now come lower, so I'm not going to need that little bit, but that's the way that's the way the cookie sometimes crumbles. I think you there, maybe that bit going behind there, you there in support, and then maybe we could have, or maybe we put you further over, take you through, and there's another little bit not come out in the middle there. So very often with these die cuts, keep an eye out for those little moments, because it's those little detail moments, just allowing the background through, that can be really delicious and delightful. I quite like that because it's giving me a look at what's going on in the background as well, and it's coming off the sides here, and maybe it's sort of one word in the middle here. I'm going to try and get these glued down while I remember where I want them. So with this, rather than lifting them all the way up, because the positioning is quite important to this, I'm just going to sort of get a dab of glue behind where I know parts are going. And then I can do a more detailed gluing. See, and they moved. Marvellous. I still haven't quite decided whether I want that in front or that in front. I think I want the flower in front. Quite unusually, I seem to be feeling pink. And it's not only pink, of course, it's the actually Lumberjack Plaid. Who knew that we'd be getting the Lumberjack Plaid out in the middle of summer? So you can see I'm just kind of aiming for places where I can attach those stamps, and if I don't glue the whole thing down, I've still got rotatability, as it were. I might trim that one because it's just sticking out of the bottom there. I'm going to take a little trim of that die cutting so that I've got a little bit less of that white showing. There we are. That's less distracting. And then this one goes here. So now I can just, now that I'm in position, I can now allow some glue under those stems. I can come under the top here. That one's down. These two, just a little dot under each of them. I really don't want a full gluing, because the other thing I love to do, as you know, is create a little bit of dimension. Just by folding up those edges, that creates a little bit more detail and delight in everything that's going on. So just getting those flower heads to stick up a little. That's very pretty. I'm wondering if there's a smaller paper doll who might want to come into a kind of fairyland world. Probably not her, but she'll give me an idea size-wise of whether I'm interested in that. Nah, don't think so. Have I got a tiny dancer somewhere? Anybody now singing? Oh, she could be interesting. So these are my tiny dolls. Don't ask me, I'm sorry, which edition they're from, because as you can see, I mix them all up in a tin together. I have no idea what comes from where. The Halloween ones are separate, but I do sometimes put a bag of Halloween ones in here because I just like the characters in those Halloween ones. So I do sometimes mix them in. That's sort of appealing to me. So I'm going to do a bit of clearing up around her just while I try to decide whether I want her there or not. The scale is off. See, as somebody who's grown up around dolls' houses, that's my mother's passionate hobby, scale is important. So unless she's a fairy, we could give her some little fairy wings. That might be worth experimenting with. Okay, I'm going to find some wings just to look at. These were the very first acetate wings that Tim Holtz produced, transparent wings. Beautiful, delicate, neutral tones, whites, browns. And yeah, I was a bit sad when the next lot came out and they were all kind of bold, bright oranges. And oh, see, that's quite interesting. And one of the ways that I quite often make these wings a little more prominent, if I want them that way, is to use a little dot of white paint. Nearly finished my white paint. Time for a new bottle of that as well. Nothing? Okay, let's see. There might be something else open here. Yeah, okay. Maybe this has got a little dot of white paint. There we are. And then you really don't need much for this. And you can do it with a slightly watery mix if you want. And then I would just rub that on with my fingertip. So it's just allowing those wings to be a little more present. I mean, I love the translucence, don't get me wrong. I really, really love completely translucent wings. But against a busy background like this, it's sometimes worth just having that little bit more presence. As you can see, I'm applying a really thin coat. If it gets too thick, I'm wiping it away again. And I'm just giving those wings a little bit more visibility against a busy background. Let's have another look and see what we think of our little fairy girl now. It's quite nice because I somehow managed to leave that gap in the middle. Let's have her. I'm in a slightly cute and quirky mode today, clearly. Let's not waste this white paint. We know what that can do. Going to take it out for a little spatterize. So a bit more water out of the jar. Let's get some white spatter going on here. Might take a little bit onto her as well, because that'll just tie her into the background and onto the wings. Come out. There we go. And because that's an umbel, it will have lots of white pollen around it. Lovely, 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 lovely. Who knew that we were going to be playing with fairies today? I was mentioning to somebody, in answer to a comment, somebody mentioned the Edwardian Lady and Beatrix Potter, and I added into that mix Sicilian Berries, flower fairies, which I grew up on. Not just the flower fairies themselves, but the flowers that each of them accompanies or looks after really seem to have mutated inside me and seem to be coming out in different ways now. I adored the flower fairy books when I was growing up. So I'm just going to give her, even though she's a fairy, so she could hover, we could have her hovering over the flowers, but I don't think I want to do that. Might be time to put a little dot of glue and confirm those wings on her. And then the other thing I've got hanging on my fingertip here is a little bit of design tape that I'm planning to give her as ground to stand on, because I don't think I want her hovering in midair. That's taking things a little bit too far. What we might do is have a little butterfly up there. So yeah, I'm just going to give her a little bit of this to stabilize her, and it'll also slightly cover up those not massively attractive stems down at the bottom here. So it's just creating a little bit of shadow detail to root her amongst the flowers. There we are. Yeah, I might put the other half on as well. I'm just still this glue is still wet, so I can still alter slightly where her wings are happening. I want a little bit more of this just as a grounding. That's too thick. So yeah, you'll have noticed that when it comes to details, I'm quite specific. When there's too much or too little of something, that can make all the difference in the world to how bulky something looks. So just a little strip there, could go anywhere. Let's have another little look at you. Yeah, I'm quite enjoying that today. It wouldn't be an everyday thing for me, but just today there's something about that that's making me happy. Let's have a look at whether we want another little butterfly echoing those wings at the top. Of course, I'm hoarding these because I once they run out, that's it, because there are no longer any of these lovely clear ones. I think I quite like the little echo of that up there. So I'm just going to put a little bit of white paint on the back of here as well. So there's the, right, so right now in my head there's a little story going on about how these fairies work, that when they come down to earth and land and they're actually looking after the flowers, you get to see the whole fairy, but that's actually one of her friends up there once they take off and they're out in the world. The fairy part is no longer visible, you just see the butterfly. So that means that all the butterflies visiting my garden, the little bend of that gives me dimension. All the butterflies visiting my garden are actually fairies. I'm going to do the same here and hope that that glue is still viable. Well, I'm about to glue her down, so that'll be fine. But I can get a little bend on those wings in the meantime for a bit of dimension. There we are. Yes, that's a lovely little echo up there. Do I want it at an angle? Yes, I want it at that angle. So that again, I'm going to do just with a little dot of glue rather than, I quite often use the mini stapler with my butterflies, but since it's a fairy that is living there, I can't put a staple right through the fairy's body. That would be a terrible thing to do. La. No, I haven't got heat stroke. There we are. So she's in there, that's up there. That's our little fairy story for the day. Oh, she might be quite nice actually, a little further forward. So a little, yeah, a couple of padded tape pieces to just lift her away, I think, from the background. I think That's going to be a nice thing in terms of dimension. I have got larger pads than this, but actually for the size of her, that's probably quite good. Then all I've got to be able to do is get the silly bits of paper off. Oh. Okay, I'm going to do that off camera because you don't need to see me fiddling with that. There we go. So it is the thing I've noticed about filming, that things that give me zero trouble when I'm here by myself suddenly on camera become absolutely impossible, like peeling off those bits of things. Or my white pen the other day. Could I get the white pen to pick up the ink off the mat? Could I heck? In the heat of filming. But as I explained to a number of people in the comments, usually when I'm picking up white ink with the dip pen, it's not a problem at all. If I lie the dip pen down backwards in the ink, it'll write for ages. Anyway, that's beside the point. If you go and have a look at some of these butterfly videos, you'll see what I'm talking about there. I do think that now I've got fairies, I might want some little droplets of light around the place. So these are just some little sticky back clear pearl affairs, and I think I want just a few of these catching the light around and about the place. I'm probably going to put some dots of glue behind these because although they are sticky back, they are, there you go, not very sticky back. This is going to be easier with a tweezer. Easy tweezer. Where's the tweezer? Okay, you there. You get back where I just put you, please. Let's see, another large one maybe here. So we'll move you across. Another medium-sized one maybe here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's have an odd number just here and there, round and about. Maybe there under the butterfly. Not going to glue them down yet because the thing I haven't got going on here yet are any words, and I don't want to get in the way of those and where they want to be. I think it's there. I think it's something very simple and little, and there. Where are words? Let's have a look what we've got. I feel so lucky. Live simply. Love with all your heart. It's the little things. Well, that would be appropriate, wouldn't it? It's quite a long phrase though. It's too much to go there. If we move the butterfly along a little bit, have you dried yet? No, you haven't. It's the little things. Just in there. Punctuated by the butterfly. Yes. And I'll do a little green outline of that, I think. Right. So with the tweezers, it's a little lift up, dot of glue, that sort of thing. Never happens to me when I'm not on camera. Little dot of glue, down you go, little dot of glue, down you go. Not sure that one got its dot. Oh yeah, it's fairly firm. Little dot of glue. That's the wrong place. It's the lower dot I want. So I'll just wipe that one away. And where's the last one? 1, fixed, 2, 3, yes. Oh, there you are. So just little moments that catch the light. Just want to look at that straight. Actually, I prefer it straight up. Direct echo of those. So little bit of pen work around this, and I think I want it in green. Back in a sec. This is probably my most used Aqua marker, so I'm hoping it's still got enough oomph to just do me a little framing of that. So this is for two purposes. It's to tie it into the background, but it also means there's slightly less of that bright whiteness going on, and then we can pop you back like so. I think that's that's quite cute for just a little bit of playful tag time. I'm wondering about looking at it maybe mounted on some white card, just to see what that's like. Might just give us a little bit of framing. Let's get a look at that. Oh, hello. I didn't think it was going to fit on that bit of card. Yes, maybe. Maybe. Let's do it. Let's not think too hard. Let's just do it. There's a sporting slogan along those lines, I think. Just borrowing it for today. There we go. Round and about. Down she goes. A little bit of trimming to do, but not too much. At some point that butterfly will be dry and stop moving around. It's the fairy clearly being busy. This will be much easier with the longer shears, because then I can just make one cut and we're done. Here obviously I'm going to have to maneuver myself behind the flowers. Don't snip off the flowers. That would be a shame, because the whole point is they're sticking out over the edge. Little straightening trim there. And let's take that off. Oh, that does make a difference, doesn't it? That's quite good. Excellent. I had no idea we were heading into fairyland today. None at all. I'll create a little hole through here. Don't put your fingers behind it. And I think it's probably going to be some of my regular fine twine. And then I'll be diving in for a close-up. Thanks so much for your company today. As I said, do check out the Wanderlust 26 announcement video. If you haven't seen that, I will link to other relevant videos down below. If you've enjoyed today's tag time, do leave me a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed here at Words and Pictures, I would love to have your company on this creative journey. Putting my crystals away. Happy crafting all.